Welcome, punters, to a huge edition of a Kosciuszko preview show. And over the next hour or so, we'll take a deep dive in the chances of every runner lining up, all 14 of them, on Saturday at Randwick. And we'll be joined by a couple of guest tipsters, a couple of superstar trainers in their own right to get their word on their runners. The kickoff proceedings, it's a big welcome to a man of many talents. He's a co-owner of Patriot Bloodstock. He's a country racing expert and all-round good bloke. Welcome, Mitch Lloyd. How are you?
Cheers, Gannon. Thanks for the kind words. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. But mate, pumped up for this Kosciuszko. You can't put a pen through too many of them, and it's a type of race I like to bet in. Plenty of value, and they're coming from all different corners of the state. So really excited for Saturday, and let's hope this track dries out and every horse gets its fair chance.
Outstanding, mate. The man that needs absolutely no introduction to the punters out there, the Prince of Albury, the man in charge of one of the biggest country stables in racing, none other than Mitch Beer. Welcome, Mitch. How are you?
Morning. G'day, lads. Yeah, good. Thanks. Lovely introduction. Hopefully we can live up to half of that on the weekend.
Mate, we're racing for $2 million. How does that sound?
Mate, it's unreal, you know. You sort of, the money gets put aside for a long time. You don't even really think about it, to be honest. You just concentrate on getting the horse there and getting a slot and getting the horse there. And then it hasn't really been till this week. You sort of think, geez, what's 10% of fourth? What's 10% of third? And then you start working your way up, and it gets bloody exciting. But we won't count our chickens before they hatch. But just to be lining up and having a horse in a $2 million race is bloody awesome.
Mate, and that sort of money, it's crazy. You know, you watch a race this afternoon, Canamble Cup, you know, and someone who's close to my business in James Ponsonby qualified a horse for the big dance, and you think, like, it was a highway horse 6 months ago, Phillipsburg, and now he's going around in the big dance for $2 million. What? You know, it's our business. We live and breathe it. But what a time to race horses in country New South Wales.
I think a fortnight ago last year, so yeah, just a tick over 12 months, Mnementh won the $27,000 or $28,000 Soldiers Cup Memorial Leeton and Open Handicap. And I said to the owners, they'll hit him with the ratings now, so enjoy that. It'll probably be his last one. And I think he's put about $180,000 in the bank since then, and we're lining up in a $2 million race. So I'm glad they didn't listen to their trainer. But the money's unreal at all levels in New South Wales. But country, we really, really reap the benefits, and it's really like the Olympics of country New South Wales horse racing there on Saturday. The best of the best are lining up, and we'll bring it on.
And a big shout out to Leeton Soldiers as well, one of the great sponsors of the Pro-Am out there, and obviously the Cup as well. Great joint, lovely place to spend a Saturday afternoon after you've shot a 78.
Mate, I haven't had the pleasure of shooting 78 at Leeton, but the day I do, mate, I'll be spending a week there.
Mate, big Mnementh, what can you tell us about him, and how's the preparation gone? Like, you know, all horses have their problems and their little idiosyncrasies, but what can you tell everyone that's watching about his preparation, and has it gone to plan, and what can we expect on Saturday?
Yeah, well, generally, I mean, the only thing that's got more problems than me at the stable is normally Mnementh. He's been riddled with problems his whole life, and it's really cost him at some better stages. And I ran the horse first up in the country championships last preparation because his first up record's awesome, and he bled from one nostril, went terrible. I couldn't believe it, and we got him home and changed everything, and his form turned around, and it was a big call to win it. He was in form. He just ran second in the Town Plate, and then he bolted in a Saturday race, and I sort of turned around to the owners and said, let's put him in the paddock and aim towards a Kosciuszko. And it was a tough call to make because you've got a gelding there that's in the best form of his life and just bolted in a Saturday race and pulled up fine. And you're turning around to the ownership group and say, if we're going to commit to the Kosciuszko, we've got to stop now, and we've got to put him in the paddock, and we've got to give ourselves plenty of time to get this horse right. And they were in full support. We did it. And he's been in work for ages. So we gave ourselves a good buffer if we hit a hurdle along the way. And, you know, he's just been faultless. solid trial, good jump out with front page, and there's not one part of the horse I would change going into Saturday.
That's outstanding, mate. And I was going to, ask that question. Naturally, most punters are going to ask. We're looking anywhere between a soft 6 and a heavy 8 with a few millimetres of rain coming on Friday. First up, naturally for a punter would be the query, but you're suggesting that the horse is ready to go, ready to fire.
Yeah, he could have ran a fortnight ago. Honestly, he's been in work a really long time with this one race in mind. So. He had a good solid trial and was ready to go after that. He subsequently had a little jump out at Wang with front page, only because of the weather leading in. I knew we were going to probably miss a gallop or two due to this delightful rain that we've had all around New South Wales. But no, his rock fitness won't be an issue. It won't be an excuse, for the horse on Saturday. And he's coming off a win on a heavy 9 in Sydney, so he's proven on the wet and on the firmer deck. So also again, track conditions won't be any excuse for us come Saturday.
Mate, was there some breaking news this afternoon? Did Chad have a fall, or is he okay?
I think breaking might not be the best word to describe the news for poor Chad. I just got off the phone with his manager, and he's currently heading in for some scans on his rib. So hopefully he's all good. Tell you what, they earn their keep, jockey managers. I think I've had about 4 or 5 texts in the last half an hour to see, if Chad's not available, about some other jockeys coming through. So, I mean, we'll really hope that Chad's available to ride the horse, and if not, I mean, it's a massive day of racing, and there's some great jockeys that don't have a ride in the race, and would be honoured to have, any of those ones lining up on Saturday on him. So we'll have to roll with that, but he's drawn a little bit of a wide barrier as well, so he's going to need some luck, and he's going to need a good ride. But hopefully Chad's aboard on Saturday.
Mate, on Chad, Mitch, we had the pleasure of sort of throwing the silk swim last Saturday, and very well spoken and very professional jockey. Can you just let the listeners know a little bit about where your sort of relationship with Chad comes from? And I've noticed that, obviously you're cousins to the Malians, and, they've got a relationship there with J-Mac and that sort of thing. And you've been in the industry a long time. You can throw the silks to a number of blokes, but just recently you've started sort of leaning towards Chad. Can you let the listeners know a little bit more about that?
I love people like Chad and people with Chad's attitude. He really chased the ride on Mnementh, and he rang and he offered to come down and gallop the horse and come down and trial the horse if we wanted to, which is a very big commitment. We're a long way from Sydney, and in his enthusiasm, and he'd done the form, and he called me about the horse and went through the horse's form and how he thought the horse could win and how he'd really like to ride it. And he's come back from Hong Kong, and he is a world-class jockey. He would hold his own anywhere in the world. And he's come back from Hong Kong with a point to prove. He wants to get back to being one of the elite riders here in Australia, which I certainly think he can. And when you've got people like Annabelle Neesham, getting behind him straight away, well, it's a no-brainer. As you guys experience as well from an owner's perspective, to ride in the highway, it's not the most important race. It's not the biggest prize money race on the day. And his attitude and his report and his time, he shook every owner's hand. He gave them so much time, great feedback, follows up with a text the next day of where the horse is going again and a reflection of the race. And for that service, because when you're booking a jockey, you're booking not only, I think, the service of the ride, but I think what experience and what attitude they give the owners and what they give you post-race is just as important as what they go out there and do for that minute or two. So I think Chad excels in that area, and he fits our stable very well.
That's outstanding. He said Chad's going to get plenty more rides delivering like that. I tell you what, though, he must have Googled how long it took to get to Albury, because I noticed that Simon Miller jumped on the trial there. He's gone, we'll give that a spell.
And a full credit to our local jockeys, Simon Miller, Jordan, Jason Lyon. They take their opportunities where we can, and we support them where we can. And Jason obviously won on the horse in Sydney at his next start, and they all still come in, they all still ride work, and they understand when these horses go to that top level that the expectancy is that, and when you look through all those country horses, they're all Sydney and top Melbourne jockeys that are riding them. And it's great, and it's a credit to them. And the guys that are at home doing the work, they get the country rides, and they might filter through to a highway or a midweek or Friday night. But they know when it steps up a bit that they've got to sort of step aside, and it's a full credit to everyone at home that still will want that horse and has put in as much work as if they were going to be riding it on Saturday.
Right, Mitch, let's get straight into it now, mate. Mnementh drawn barrier 12. On my map, I've got him sitting a few pairs back in the running line, finding the best ground, those lanes 4 to 10. Is that how you see it?
Well, I reckon he'll probably end up a pair or two worse than that, and we're prepared from that. I think had a chat to a couple of the owners today, and I just think he needs the absolute luck and the right run to win. I think you could probably run that race 4 or 5 times, and he probably doesn't win. He goes close to, so he needs the right run. There's better horses than him in the race, and I think accepting that is our best chance of running well in the race. And I think from 12, if we just swallow the pill early, cop our medicine, it's going to be a genuine speed, find a spot without getting caught deep, and get to the best part of the ground. He's got a great finish, and hopefully they overdo it on top. I just think if we try and be too positive and get caught 4 deep on him, he's gone. He's not good enough to sit deep and put a field like that away. So I think, as I said, we'll just take our medicine, find a spot back in the field, get some cover, relax, and finish off strong.
Outstanding, mate. And what are we looking at there? I think around the $23 mark, $6 a place. I think Mitch had a final question for you, mate. Mitch, I'll just take over while we're about to wrap up. Beery, and thanks for your time, mate. When's the horse coming to Sydney, mate? It's a pretty important one.
Yeah, Mitch, I sort of overplay this a little bit, and I sort of give you a hard time about it sometimes with our horses and the logistics about it. But, mate, it's a fine line. Like, you bring the horse up on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and they get up here and they get nice and fresh and they're doing well, and you don't trot and canter them on a Friday morning or stretch their legs on a Saturday, or you come up on the Saturday morning and you run the risk of them not travelling well, and you flush some big dickies down the drain. What do you do in this situation, mate? Do you bring them up early? Do you stick to your normal routine of Friday night to Goulburn and then do the rest Saturday? What will you do with him, mate?
Sort of all depends on the horse. I think some of those horses that don't eat well, you sort of try and leave them at home as long as possible. And I work for a great trainer called Russell Cameron, who was really good at travelling horses, and he liked to take a lot of these older geldings away out of their comfort zone a couple of days earlier and get their sort of adrenaline up somewhere new, and it really used to spark them up a bit. So we'll leave around 10, 11 o'clock Thursday night, drive through the night, get into Randwick at early hours Friday morning, and give him Friday there and give us plenty of time to rest up as well, and we can all launch on Saturday.
Outstanding. Mitch Beer, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with everything. Before we go, mate, plenty of punters and owners out there want to know, well in sight, how's she going?
She's come back really good. I can't believe how much she's grown. So, nothing went right last prep, but sometimes they just don't come back up. And she's back in bigger, stronger, and I've got no doubt she'll get back to her best.
Outstanding. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, guys.
Righto, punters, we're now joined by Cam Crockett, who will give us the inside word on Commando Hunt, drawn barrier 10 at the $26 mark. Cam, thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries.
Commando Hunt, mate, shed a little bit of light on, for the listeners, just his preparation. I've followed his preparation pretty intently myself, but from a trainer's point of view, mate, run us through the Dubbo and Tamworth runs.
Well, he was very underdone when he went to Dubbo. We missed a couple of trials, and the start of his preparation there was a little bit disjointed. So I was actually happy to see Delavan win again today. I know that we're going to a Kosciuszko. He was only running in a open transferred Canamble meeting, but for him to finish where he did, I think he was, as I say, very underdone. Never travelled at all through the 1100 and still ran on like he did. And he sort of poked his head through there at the finish. I think if he was sort of had a run under his belt, he might have gone a lot closer. So I wasn't – he did everything I expected there first up, and we went from there to Tamworth. Tamworth, I thought, was a little bit of an experiment. We nearly could have trialled to tick him over, but I always wanted the horse third up. We put the blinkers on. We tried to ride him a little bit closer. He ended up going in between horses. So we learnt a lot that day. I know he's a horse that's had sort of for the country champs, we were kicking ourselves. Maybe we should have gone back inside and we might have won. But after looking at those two runs, I just dead set think he's a horse that he's got to get the outside area for him to really run on. People need to sort of remember, I think, with the horse that before that country championship preparation, he went to Dubbo and he got beat by a horse, just can't think of its name now, a horse of Peter Stanley's that goes all right, but was still an open company sprint at Dubbo over 1400 and he ran second. So this is nothing out of the ordinary for him. He just seems to get to Randwick, big open spaces, goes into those high pressure races, and he just seems to find I've had horses taken him down to Sydney, Randwick and step them up and when you think they can and they just don't do it. But for whatever reason, this horse, when the pressure's on and he needs to lift, he does it. He did it third up at Tamworth when he ran second to Enethol. He then went from that run at Tamworth, beaten by Enethol, got to Randwick, big track, higher pressure, and sort of beat him quite easily. So I'm not sitting here saying he's going to beat Enethol on Saturday. I sure hope that he does, but just an example of the way the horse lifts when the pressure's really on. And he's coming from Tamworth to a track like Randwick. He'll be a completely different horse. He's third up, and I mean I've had a bit of experience now prepping horses for these bigger, higher pressure races, and I feel more confident as a trainer. I used to sort of guard them a little bit and sort of following all the better trainers and the trainers that have won all of these higher pressure races. They do tend to want to have a couple of runs under their belt because there's nowhere to hide once you get to Randwick. Track's probably going to be testing and it's not going to be run like your average sort of country race. So I will say coming out of Tamworth, we're probably a touch deflated, although, as I say, I was still happy with the runner. It was a bit of an experimental thing. He had the blinkers on and we rode him closer. But the way the horse has come through and come on, and we stuck to the original plan of being third up, everything's fallen into place. I'm actually happier with him going into Saturday than I was going into the country championship. I think he's better than what he was going into the country champs, but he's obviously going to need to be better. Because he may be a touch more vulnerable, being that it is only 6 furlongs, but was hoping the rain would stick around enough, obviously, for the meeting to go ahead and be safe. There's predicted 10 mil at the end of the week, and just got my fingers crossed that 10 mil might just top the track up and we might see a very wet track on Saturday, because he probably does need that to bring him into contention.
You hit the nail on the head there. And that horse you're talking about at Dubbo was not negotiating. But I tell you what, I'll say it for you, Cam. Commando Hunt should have won the country championships. Here's what it is. That's the way it goes. I think we're all on it. We're all cheering. But that's racing. If we can get that 8 to 10 mils on Friday, brings him in with a massive, massive chance. From barrier 10, what's the plan? Any chance you can sit midfield?
No. Just based on that first run where we did try and ride him a bit closer, and because we ended up being closer, we sort of had to take the run through the field. I nearly think he's better off, even if you're a pair or two further back than what you hope, but you've got nothing to your outside, and then you can come out to the middle of the track. Or just the one concern, I guess, with his pattern is that they did use that strip of grass. The rail was out at Randwick on Saturday, and obviously by 3/4 of the way through the day, they had to can the meeting. So now the rail goes back to the true. The one little question mark I have is that being back in the true, is it going to sort of favour the on pace horses again? But you just don't know. You can make predictions, but racing's a funny thing. It could end up following the being better for the swoopers. It could end up being better for horses up and in again like it was last week, but just hoping that horses can run on. And I do feel there's a couple of horses that are going to feel the pinch sort of. They've never really stretched out past 1,000, a couple of the horses, and I'm hoping they might put some good pressure into the race, which sort of might bring a couple of those better horses that are going to be behind the speed just out of their I don't think it'll take it out of their comfort zone, but I just hoping it sets up a really good tempo. And if he can run on, we know the plan now after experimenting with him at Tamworth that he's just not a horse you can ride inside. So we will just be getting as wide as we possibly can, and just hope that out there you can run on. Because, like I say, I do think there's going to be a fair bit of speed. And in fairness to all the horses, it looks like a good race, but I do think there's a couple of horses that are going to set the speed up. And as I say, they haven't been past 1,000 or 1,100. They haven't travelled away from their home track. It's one thing I have learnt with training horses, and again for these sort of bigger races, he's very seasoned at travelling. We know he performs at Randwick. We know he performs at Randwick when it's wet, and we know he can travel away from home and still give his best. Again, that's a big thing with country horses is you can think they're what you like, but when it comes to travelling and going to these new tracks, he's been around Randwick multiple times, so he'll feel right at home.
Mate, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a bit of inside word there from all the years of punting experience on Randwick. I think with a rail back and a true on a soft to heavy, lanes 4 to 10, place to be. So you look like you're in the right place to be there, mate. And given that they were heavy on that lanes 8, 9 and 10 on Saturday, if it does get drier, it's probably even better out there. Mitch, you got a question to wrap up for Cam?
Camo, just with Macca, I've make no secret of it. I'm a big follower of country racing, and we cross paths at some of these showcase meetings in the bush, and you tend to sort of lean towards probably Reece Jones, and definitely that Mudgee meeting every year that the country championship time, you lean towards Huey a little bit. How did the booking of Macca come about, mate? And have you had much success with him in the past?
Actually, Karen sort of rode Mr. Hustle the day he was off a long break, and he won first up in the highway. I don't think it was I think it was either last year, or it could have been the year before now. And he also rode the country only maiden winner for me, the first race on Scone Cup Day last year. We've had a decent amount of success together. He rode a couple for me, run 2 seconds again on the Scone Cup this year. Rode him perfectly, and he's also mates with Brian Rudder, who's in the horse. So we're pretty keen to get him on. We did sort of try for Nash first, but Nash obviously with the 55, it was going to be a little bit difficult. And being that I just getting down to the weights, I feel is a huge advantage. So I didn't want to sort of ride a kilo over if we could avoid it. But certainly nothing lost with Karen. And Karen has rode him. He had a little bit of opinion of the horse. He rode him in either his first or second highway, or it may have even been both his first highway runs, and came back and said, look, he goes good. But he was still a young horse then, and we were inside a couple of runners, and he was doing a few things wrong. So as much as the horse doesn't do things wrong inside runners now, I still don't think he's happy to be there. So we'll have that debrief, and I'm sure Karen will be on the same wavelength. And look, it's a big day. As much as I know it's a country race and people sort of want to, bring country jockeys to the city, it is a bit of a nerve-wracking setup if you're not seasoned for it. And Karen's rode all over the world. He's rode in Melbourne Cups. He's won Melbourne Cups. He's won Everest. So what can you say? I'm certainly not going to go there thinking that I could have gone any better in the jockey department than McAvoy. So horses ticked all the boxes. We got the right rider. I'm very relaxed about it. I know he's going to do nothing but run really well, but I'm going in there knowing that he is a horse that probably needs things to line up on the day. So that's out of our control. We can't worry about that. We just have to hope it all does towards the end of the week.
Super stuff, Cam. All the best with Commando Hunt on Saturday, mate. We'll be cheering for you, and might see you out of the track.
Perfect.
Cheers, Camo. Good luck,
Cheers. Mate. Thank you.